Qualified, professional, and compassionate doctors talking real solutions to real health problems.
In your primary education, you probably learned about the famed 6 killer diseases. Over the years, this number of diseases has grown, diseases that are affecting young children below the age of 1 year. But currently, there seems to be one particular disease that is ravaging the entire Uganda, the disease of measles. With me in studio are officials from the Uganda National Expanded Program on Immunization to tell us more about the current outbreak that is ravaging Uganda. Welcome with me Dr. Driwale Alfred, the Assistant Commissioner and Program Manager of the Immunization Program for Uganda. So he's basically the boss of the National Immunization Program. And Dr. Ampire Immaculate, Program Immunization Officer, also from Uganda National Expanded Program on Immunization, or short, UNEPI. You're most welcome to the show, doctors.
Thank you.
And I'm your host again for the evening. So let's dig into understanding more about what this outbreak is all about. Dr. Immaculate, maybe I'll start with you. We received news that there's an outbreak. People don't know what an outbreak is. They think probably something like Ebola where 10,000 people have died. Why is there an outbreak? Why do you say there's an outbreak in Uganda?
When different diseases have different definitions of when you say now this is an outbreak or epidemic, and you say Ebola, for Ebola, a single case defines an outbreak, and everyone must swing into action. But for measles specifically, if three samples from 3 cases are confirmed positive in 30 days or within a month, that is declared an outbreak in that district.
So there's currently a measles outbreak in the country. Dr. Driwale, why exactly is this outbreak occurring? We thought when we immunize children, they get protected from measles.
Probably it is important to start on the note that measles is one of the diseases targeted for elimination.
Okay.
Now, the challenge we have in Uganda is not with whether these services are available or not, but it is whether people use the services which are available. Now, in Uganda, on average, annually, we have about 80% of our children vaccinated with measles.
That's about the coverage.
Yes, the coverage.
Okay.
Annually. What it means is about 20% of these children are not vaccinated. So over time, you get an accumulation of numbers of children who are not vaccinated. By the 3rd year, these numbers have increased to a point where the protection of the community because of the vaccines becomes weak and the population becomes vulnerable. Okay. So that's why every 3 years we experience outbreaks, and it requires that we intervene in form of a campaign to correct the error of not having vaccinated every child behind. So I should conclude by saying that the reason why we're having these outbreaks is as a result of accumulation of large numbers of unimmunized children.
Of the 20% that missed out.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Immaculate, since there was a measles outbreak, it might be scary for people, but we don't really know where the outbreak is happening. Could you give us an update where this outbreak, are there hotspots within the country where there are very many measles cases that people should be worried about?
When you come to defining hotspots for risk of measles, it is where if there are a high number of unimmunized children, that is a hotspot. Okay. And it shows you the strength of the program in terms of immunization. So as of, since 2018 to date, over 60 districts have been confirmed to have measles outbreaks. 60. And for rubella, it was about, since 2018 to date, over 23 districts have been confirmed to suffer rubella outbreaks. So that's the magnitude of the problem. But in terms of a hotspot, every unimmunized child is at risk of measles. So you need to be immunized to be protected against measles.
I don't know if rubella is one of the vaccinated. Is it one of the vaccinated diseases?
The presentation of the patients is actually the same. They present typically with the fever, the cough, the flu, the red eyes, you know, and the general malaise, that general weakness that comes with, and that characteristic rash appears in both. And actually, most of the cases being seen out there, which people are calling measles, some of them are rubella cases. But the difference is only done at the lab. That's when you can differentiate that this is a measles case or rubella.
Okay, so they're very similar.
Yes.
In
and
presentation.
But they differ at the lab and also in complications.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and maybe I come at this point. Because measles is a disease which is known by our communities in the local settings, and there are people who take it lightly. It is not only the rash. It is very important for people to know that the rash you see on the skin, it is not only on the skin, it is on all surfaces, including the surfaces of the eye, surfaces of the lungs inside, surfaces of the intestines, and what makes it severe is those rashes on the internal organs. It affects severely the functionality of those organs. So a child who has this disease will not be able to absorb the food he has eaten, and if this continues for a longer time, it will transform into other complications of malnutrition, severe pneumonia. It can complicate into blindness. It can complicate into mental complications, functioning of the brain.
When it has reached the brain.
Yes, encephalitis.
So it can affect any organ, basically.
The epithelial linings will be affected. So we are concerned because the internal damage, which people do not see, it makes other people to underestimate and begin to question why I should have my child vaccinated. But we just want to make it clear that the reason why we are committed to prioritize this as a killer disease for intervention is because of the extent of damage it does to the body of the child.
I'm just wondering, so if, for example, a lady who is expecting is pregnant and she suddenly gets measles, what is the effect on the baby? Will it have an effect, Dr. Immaculate?
A pregnant woman has a 90% chance of transmitting the virus to the baby. And if a pregnant...
For rubella?
Yes. And if a woman gets this infection in the first 12 weeks, which is the first trimester, that's when the fetus or the body parts of the baby are still being formed. There's a risk of the child getting congenital abnormalities. The mother can experience miscarriage, stillbirth, and also the child being born with birth defects.
A very serious disease.
Yeah.
Those two diseases, measles and rubella, capable of causing that.
Yeah, they are all viral diseases, but rubella, in terms of complications, is usually milder and wanes away on its own.
So measles is the most lethal.
Yeah.
But they both equally affect
people. So the justification of the rubella component is the effect on the unborn child to form what we call the congenital rubella syndrome, having a baby born with birth defects.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also it's important to note that the complications which are related to the mother-to-child transmission of the virus in the first trimester, this is where the nervous system is forming.
Basically, all the organs
are forming.
Being formed in that
So
first 3 months.
Yes, the heart is forming, the brain, the spinal cord, they are forming. So that's why you find a child, the brain size and the skull, the baby will have a small head. The eyes, which are connected to the brain, they form cataracts. The ears, the child may be deaf. And these are conditions, if you have a child with these conditions, devastates the life of the family. Looking after a child with the with
Who has been
with,
born with some
with
defects.
some defects like this is very expensive, emotionally, economically, and even for the child itself.
Okay.
So it is the reason why we think that this condition should be prioritized and dealt with at the level of immunization and be part of our program, so that it is one of the diseases which should not be in the list of diseases
It
in
should
this
be
country.
eliminated.
It should be eliminated.
Okay, so more about measles and vaccination coming up after the break. Send in your questions and comments on our social media platforms. Always happy to hear from you. Don't go away.
You are watching the Doctalk Show. Reduce sugar intake. Sugar, like salt, is needed in your body, but in moderation, and extremely bad for you in excess. High sugar intake is directly linked to weight gain, and this leads to type 2 diabetes and heart problems. There are good sugars like those found in natural fruits and vegetables, which are totally fine for the body. Then there are bad sugars, the added sugars found in many processed foods and sweetened drinks. Watch how much sugar you take in each day. The World Health Organization suggests 25 grams, and that's about 6 teaspoonfuls per day. A can of your favorite soft drink contains around 9 teaspoonfuls in only 340 mils. You are watching the Doctalk Show.